Okay, so have you had a notification your end, Paul, that it's now recording?
Just a verbal. This meeting's being recorded.
That's cool. You're happy to go ahead then? Yeah, awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm really curious to get into the kind of the depths of conversation here. What I hope from this is that I'm not here to say, good or bad photographs. I prefer to open up conversation and maybe deepen some knowledge from your part about maybe some of the meanings behind images, some of the concepts, theories, ideas
Cool.
behind creativity. So, I'm not here to judge or anything like that. It's more of a conversation, as maybe a therapist would open up with some questions. That's generally how I like to proceed with workshops in particular, and tuition is more a questioning process. So, I guess I want to start by maybe just asking you a little bit about your journey so far in photography. So maybe think about where you are now versus where you began. And then we'll also guide the conversation to think about perhaps where you might wish to be going in the future with your work. So yeah, over to you.
Okay. Well, I've probably first picked up a camera when I was around about 25 years of age.
Okay.
Though I was very interested in photography, it never really took off. I was more interested in other things, should we say. Then, I'm 60 this year. I retired from my employment back in 2019, and thought, I want to get into photography. I needed something to occupy my mind.
Mm.
I didn't want to just retire from work and do nothing, just sort of fester, if you like.
Yeah.
So I picked up a camera again in 2019, and I absolutely love photography. I get out at every opportunity. Following this interview, I'm back off up to London. So yeah, every opportunity I get, I pick a camera up. So I'm out most mornings, sometimes of an evening. And what really got me into photography, I find photography a great release. It's I can forget about everything else in this world. I can totally forget about what's going on. I think I mentioned to you before, I lost my son when he was just 19. That was back in 2009. And I have struggled since.
Yeah.
And I find therapy. I find photography really a therapy, if you like.
Yeah.
I can forget, not forget about him, but forget about the thoughts that I don't want to think. So yeah, so photography is a great help to me.
So would you say that photography has kind of evolved since that experience, and maybe in recent times compared to maybe when you started out completely with photography?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I would say, if anything, I think my wife would say photography is now an obsession rather than a hobby.
Yeah. Okay, so with that in mind, what is it about the actual practice that causes you to become so obsessed with creating photographs?
Um, Probably just the release I get, just that I can forget about everything. I said to you earlier, some of the photos I was showing you, I can be on a beach at 4 o'clock in the morning when there's absolutely no one about, and I'm not an unsociable person. If another photographer comes along and wants to chat, we sit and chat.
Yeah.
But I can be alone with my thoughts. And as I said, what better time of day than 4 o'clock sitting on a beach watching the sun come up?
Yeah. Yeah, I can resonate deeply with my own reasons why. I think that's perhaps why you maybe felt that connection to me and my work. What I was going to draw upon is an essay that I wrote. I can't remember if I published it on my photography blog or a separate personal blog, but I was touching upon the idea of turning like pain into power, and that's certainly what photography is for me. In that I feel like creativity is traditional creativity, art, singing, dancing, photography, painting, etc. I feel like the more meaningful works are driven by that, maybe therapeutic process that we're going through with our creativity. And I wonder if that resonates with you, in that you're maybe harnessing experiences that have caused you pain and hurt, and maybe using the practice of photography to transmute them into something, a story, an image, an experience.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the story. I think it's just the process of getting out into nature, getting out into fresh air. And you know, I like to see that process through from taking the picture. I enjoy just as much the editing, sitting at home with a coffee. Once I get back, you know, I'm one of these people, I can't leave the SD card in my camera and do it 2 weeks later. I get home from a trip to Southwold. Immediately I get home, coffee, sit down, edit my pictures. It's done. And then some weeks later, I may print them. I may look through, review, print, and I'm now starting to frame my pictures as well. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily a story. It's more of a process that I go through that I find really relaxing.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting one, actually, because kind of just touching briefly upon the images that you've sent to me, and I wonder if now if I share my screen, I'll just bring a few of those up onto the screen now. So let's start here. So yeah, because what I felt when I was looking through them is that a lot of them are kind of representative of place. And I wonder, you mentioned about perhaps it's not so much about story, if that's a conscious thing for you, that you're representing a place rather than a story, a narrative, an idea.
Yeah, definitely a place. I think you know that one being the exception, I guess. But the place definitely, the sea does something for me. I find the sea very calming. No matter how rough the sea can be, you know, I find it just so calming. I can sit there all day and just take picture after picture.
So is that something that you're then trying to convey to the people on the other end?
I think so. Yeah, you know. Yeah, I think so. I think I'm trying to say that perhaps photography has helped me a great deal, and these are the photos that have helped me. This is, as I said, I'm no happier than when I'm by the sea.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, with that in mind, just as I go through a few more of these images, just to give a sense on the video of what we're looking at here, because I've got some notes to kind of draw back to a few of these particular afterwards. So I'll stop sharing there for a moment. But so with that in mind, you know, we touched upon where you've been with photography, kind of where you started, the little break that you had, versus where you are now. For me to get a better idea of you, and before I offer any further thoughts, do you have maybe a vision in mind as to where you would like to get to with photography? Is there a mission, a deeper purpose behind your work? Is it something
I
you've
would
thought
say
about?
originally, no, it was a hobby. It was something that helped me. But yes, definitely now, I feel that and I'm finding it very difficult. I feel that I want to share what I've learned in photography and how it's helped me with other people. And hence, I think I said to you when you was at the Land and Light exhibition, I would love to do workshops. Not, yeah, just workshops where I'm sharing what I believe I've learned in photography with other people.
For what? Yeah, for what purpose then? Is there a you know?
Yeah, maybe people like myself who have struggled in the past, and just to show that, you know, it is a therapy, 100%, and and hopefully share some of my technical skills as well. I wouldn't say
Sure.
I wouldn't say I was that technical, You know, I don't use light meters and all that. I have a light meter on my camera, which
Mm.
I'll make sure is on 0 or nearabouts, you know, and histogram and what have you. But
Yeah,
the technicalities of working out exposure times and what have you
yeah,
is not me.
yeah. Well, that's interesting that you say that, because I could sense, and I was making some notes on this before, that I sense some technical proficiency in your images. You know, sharpness. They look like you've understood the technicalities in terms of shutter speeds, apertures, focal lengths, and things like that. So there clearly is a technical understanding there, but you're saying that it's actually beyond that, that you're wanting to go with your work. Yeah.
Yeah. The technical side is the technical side of photography to me is second.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing on that camera is the first thing. You know, that is the thing that excites me.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't look quite right on the camera, I adjust the exposure. Yeah, I increase the ISO or whatever I need to do. And then if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Mm.
And perhaps I'll take 4 or 5 different pictures of that subject at different exposures.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'll get one right.
Yeah. Okay. So with that in mind, now you kind of mentioned perhaps a little bit more about where you'd like to go, and perhaps using photography as a vehicle, a tool, for healing, and maybe to make the world a better place in some way, to make people's lives better. With that, I think comes perhaps a voice alongside the images themselves, and I'm speaking from my opinion, my thoughts here. In terms of what are you communicating beyond place, beyond time? So have you thought about that in terms of maybe some keywords, some key themes, perhaps even concepts behind work? And if not, maybe it's a perfect time to maybe have a little talk about that and think about that.
Yeah. No, I can't say that I have really.
So from your point of view, in terms of, place yourself back at in the footsteps of some of these photographs. What are what are you feeling in the moment? What are you perhaps saying with the images?
To be honest, I don't know. I'm just so lost in the moment. I don't have too many thoughts in my mind at that time, because, as I said, photography is a time for me to forget all the thoughts in my mind. I just get excited when I see an image that I want to capture, and I'm just so what's the word I'm looking for?
Present?
Focused on getting that image right. So there's no real deep thought at that time of what I'm trying to achieve, other than get a really nice crisp photo with a nice composition.
Okay.
And to be able to share that with other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What about thoughts after the moment? Is that something that you embark upon? Do you embark upon, and maybe this is part of your process now to maybe have conversations about it, do you sit with images afterwards and embark upon a reflective process to think and apply some maybe critical thought?
Yes, I will quite often. I've got a little hard drive, and I store all my pictures on the hard drive, and quite often, once every 6 weeks, once every 2 months, whatever it be, I'll go through those images. I think it helps me in as much as how much I have improved, or if I've improved. I can look back on Instagram, look at right at the very beginning where I was taking a picture of a pigeon sitting on a fence. And I was into black and white at the time, so I was taking all those images. But then I searched through my Instagram, and I think I can see how I've grown as a photographer. So yes, I do reflect on my old images.
Yeah.
And it's quite good because I can look back and it's calming. I find that I feel that I'm there again, if you like. I open that picture of Southwold Beach. I keep talking about Southwold Beach because, as I say, that's my happy place. That's where I love to be. I can open that image and think I'm back on that beach.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, interesting. So talk to me then about the growth that you feel like you've achieved. Talk to me about maybe the changes in your work, in you, perhaps over that time. You know, when you say about looking back on your Instagram feed, which I believe is an incredibly important part of the process, by the way, to look back, perhaps to see where you are, to see where you've come. So can you elaborate on that a little more in terms of what you perceive to be
Yeah.
your changes?
So just going back a little while, I was in the fire service. I retired in 2019, as I said to you. I came across a pretty nasty incident back in November last year that brought back all sorts of thoughts for me. And I sought some therapy from the fire service. They put me in touch with a guy who was a PTSD therapist, and he instantly diagnosed me with PTSD.
Yeah.
And looking back, I can now see that, yes, I can see where that diagnosis has come from. I was quite a moody person, snappy. But now I've gone past that, and now that diagnosis has been made, I feel a lot more chilled. You know, I'm accepting of how I've been and how I am now. And I spoke to him about photography, and he was a great believer that photography, or any hobby, as he puts it, that can occupy your mind is healing. Yeah, that helps with the PTSD. So, yeah.
Sounds beautiful, beautiful process that you've been on, and that I think
I wouldn't say beautiful, because it was. I don't mean this in a nasty way. It's been horrible. You know, I would say this. The period leading up to me seeing this therapist was horrendous. It was horrible. You know, deep thoughts, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But now, having that diagnosis is great. You know,
Yeah.
it's not great. I'm still living with it.
Sure.
But I'm dealing with it.
Yeah. I didn't mean to cause any, disrespect to what you've been on.
Not at all.
Yeah. But healing in itself is beautiful. I think, to turn something that was negative and painful into something, like with that desire that you have to help other people now. I think that in itself, because there's so many stories of perhaps people, and I can speak from experience with father figures that I've had that have taken negative experiences and then inflicted more damage with those experiences. So to now be in a position that you're in, I think it's a beautiful place, and full respect to you for wanting to use those for change and for good in the world.
Yeah, I think I have mentioned this to you before. He runs a charity. It's called iCarp, and I can't remember what it stands for, but basically he has set up this community charity that looks after people with PTSD, mainly military, but also 999 staff. And he invited me along to give a talk on photography. And I found that very therapeutic, should we say.
Yeah.
To be able to sit down, we sat down at the side of a lake, because his thoughts are that fishing helps people. Same as photography. You know, people who are interested in fishing can sit at the side of the lake all day, and they'd get lost in their thoughts. They can forget about the nasty things that they've seen. And I spent a day with them, and it was great. You know, the feedback I had at the end of the day was positive, so I really enjoyed that day, and that was very therapeutic for me as well.
Yeah. What were the kind of comments that you received?
I can't remember now. It was a little while ago.
Yeah.
It was great. They thought I was very, very knowledgeable, and I set them off on tasks. Some of them had DSLR cameras but never used them, or never used them in manual mode. And by the end of the session, which was a day, they were going off taking pictures around these lakes with slow shutter speeds and capturing things that are moving fast, birds and what have you. And it's great. They come away with a skill that they didn't have before.
Yeah. Beautiful. I had a I had a question that came to mind, but I can't remember what it was just then. It's the problem when I get into these
Sorry, I'm waffling.
conversations. No, not waffling at all. No, you talk about a lot of things that get my mind ticking, and then I can't remember what I was going to go back to.
I get that a lot with my age.
Right. Well, I can't blame my age. I'm only
No, you
33.
can't.
Okay, so I was going to ask about some of the images that you feel a particular resonance with out of that portfolio. Of course, they all mean something different to you, but are there maybe a handful that stand out to you in terms of meaning and maybe ones that have inspired the most amount of reflection and thought? And perhaps I'll bring the
No, I'd
file up.
say
So
as a group of photos, I think they all have a meaning, and I
mm,
think the majority of them are just because they're by water. You know, I keep saying that I just find it so calming. If you flick through the images, there's one with an old wreck of a boat,
yeah,
a curved shoreline leading to the boat with some bright sort of pinky coloured flowers. I think they're actually called sea pinks.
let
Right.
me. Oh, I think I know the one you mean. I've got it here, so let me share it. Oh, I thought you said that it wasn't in here. That's why I was asking you to
Oh no,
share
no.
it. Oh,
This particular
this one,
one.
right?
Yep. So I I took my other son, and I've been trying to get him to pick up a camera for a little while. Um, I didn't include the image because I haven't spoken to him about it, and I didn't want to do that. But we were here. It's a place called Alford Quay, which again is on the Suffolk coast, not far from Southwold. And we were sitting at home one evening. And I turned and said, should we go up to Alford? And he was at a loose end, so we did. And I took two cameras. I've got a little XT5 that I use as well. I gave him the XT5 and I said to him, go off and take some pictures. But I don't know how. Okay, so I went through the dials, changed it to manual mode. This is how you change the exposure. This is how you change your aperture, and just leave the ISO where it is. Yeah, it's about right. And he went off and he took this amazing image. It wasn't my sort of image really, but he took a picture of him standing. If you imagine the mud that's all cracked because of the sun, and he's taken a picture just looking straight down at his legs and his feet, standing in this cracked mud. And I just thought it was a great picture. So being here with him was great.
Yeah, right.
I finally got him to pick up a camera, and I'm slowly persuading him, should we say?
Right. Well, so this image is a kind of memory of that day.
Yeah, it's a special day.
Yeah. I had a follow-up question based upon something you just said. You mentioned that that wasn't your sort of image. I think as much of finding ourselves in photography and finding perhaps our style is knowing what we don't like. So what was it in terms of that image that your son took that you felt wasn't your
When
kind of
I say it's
photograph?
not my sort of image, it's not the sort of image I would go out to take.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because I'm very drawn to water. Yeah, I'm very drawn to coastal seascape.
Yeah.
Sort of pictures, and again, it's that calming thing for me. But yeah, it was just a great picture. It had lots of comments. We put it on Instagram. Did we put it on Instagram? No, I think he posted it on his Instagram, and got absolute, loads of nice comments.
Yeah, right. So tell me about a Paul picture then. What's a Paul picture? Of course, water.
What's a poor picture?
Paul, you.
A pool picture. Oh,
Paul.
right, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
A pool picture is what you see in the majority of these. A nice sunset, a sunrise, and just that calming nature of the sea.
Yeah. This
That,
is
that
what.
that's
Yeah.
probably quite boring, really, just to stick to one genre of photography. And in saying that, I am trying to widen my horizons, if you like.
When you say widen, what do you mean? Where would you like to go with it?
This when I came to see you at the Land and Light show or exhibition, I went off into London after that,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed myself just walking around sort of Tower Bridge and on the South Bank and what have you. And I think I've got some reasonable images, and I'm going back up there this afternoon. So yeah, I'm trying to explore other things.
Is
But
that as a
I
method?
say that
Sorry, yeah.
there's normally water involved because
Yeah.
it's on the Thames.
Yeah, right. And you know, the conversation that we're having now and the images, of course, point to the fact that you love being in by water. So for me, having this kind of conversation now points to the fact that you've kind of found your place, found your niche, which I think is very important in
Yeah.
this field of landscape photography. I do believe it's important to have the area of your speciality, if you like, and you certainly
Yeah.
seem to have found yours with water, and particularly, you know, I think the more meaningful ones in this collection that you've sent me are certainly the like the coastal ones. For me, looking at them, in particular this one, I think that, you know, if I were to pick probably my favorite out of the portfolio that you sent me, in terms of a feeling inside of me, nothing to do with the technical settings, you know, the place or anything like that, but in terms of a feeling, to me, being the viewer, there's something in this one that I felt particularly drawn to from the beginning. And of course, it meets a lot of the, you know, the rules of photography, shall we say, you know, in terms of the curve of the land, the kind of, you know, the flow, the acting, you know, like this particular kind of swirling pattern here. So there's a definite ticking of the boxes there, which, although I don't like to get too drawn into the technicalities, they do play a little bit of a role in creating a compelling and meaningful image. And I think this one ticks some boxes there. But actually, for me, it's the use of light. Being a photographer looking at this, I can see that, you know, that's very intentional. You've waited for that sun to drop, right?
Yeah.
From the clouds.
I'll just share a little bit of information on this. This was in May this year.
Yeah.
Myself and my wife just took herself off for a tour around Cornwall. So we started off in North Devon, followed the coast all the way around to Land's End and around the south of the Cornwall coast. This image is actually at Land's End, and we were standing by our hotel, which was sort of just off to the right of the picture. And a young lad come up to me and said, "This is not where you need to be. This is, you know, do you know the area?" No, not at all. He said, "You need to be round the corner. It's a 5-minute walk. There's a place called Ennis Dodnan Arch." He said, "It's a honeypot location, if you like." He said, "But you need to get there pretty quick because the sun's going to be in the right place." And he had an image which he showed me on his phone. He worked one Young Landscape Photographer of the Year at 18. I think he was 18 or 17. And he pointed me in the direction of this, and I just sat there in awe. Yeah, we was probably here for about half an hour after I took this shot, just sitting on there, just watching the waves crash.
Beautiful story.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at this, feeling the waves crash, and perhaps feeling your feelings of peace in this location.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's you know, there's something to this that I felt when I first looked at it overall of the images, actually.
On the side, the eyes.
Yeah, no, I really like this image as well. It's probably one of my best, I think. The way the light just hits the water and comes through that arch. I have seen better images where the light coming through the arch has actually come all the way to the shoreline. So, you know, the sun's been a lot lower, but as you can see, the sun was disappearing behind that cloud, so it didn't get much lower than that.
Yeah.
This place here is not far from me. This is probably only half an hour drive from me, a place called Dovercourt. And again, this is a fantastic place. I love this place. This was late afternoon, and myself and my wife were just sitting on the beach. She was paddling, and I was taking pictures.
Mm. What was it that made you choose this as your composition from that place?
The bird, believe it or not.
Mm.
You know, if you cover up that bird, I think it's a lesser image.
Mm.
I don't know why. Just gives it a little bit more interest, I guess.
Mm.
But soon after this, believe it or not, the sky's cleared.
Mm.
You it's hard to imagine to look in that because it's very grey.
Mm.
And this was probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And by about 6, it completely cleared.
Mm.
And I did actually get an image of the moon rising above it.
There's another one in here, Paul, that I was going to pick your brains about actually.
Yeah.
It was this one.
That one there, that is
Yeah.
a place called Watersmeet in North Devon.
Okay.
That was in July this year.
Mm. Was there an experience to go alongside this one?
Not really. I've been here many times, and I've always struggled with composition in woodland photography.
Mm.
I find woodland photography very messy in my head.
Mm.
I can't look and pick out a composition in woodland photography. But no, I don't think there was any thoughts behind this. We'd gone here. There's a cafe off to the left, so my wife had gone off to have a cup of tea and a bit of cake, and I was just wandering around taking pictures. And I liked this composition. Just the river leads off to the left into the distance, but
yeah, no, this was another one. I think out of all of them, this one and the sea stack one were the two that got a hold of me. And what were you going to say then? Sorry.
Ribeira de Janela, which is in Madeira.
Right.
I'm not sure if you can see.
Oh, what the one? I thought the one I just talked about was in Cornwall.
Oh, sorry, that one.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
sorry, I thought you were talking about the sea stacks, the huge sort of pinnacle shaped sea stacks.
Yeah, no, it was this one, and it was the archway with that use of light in the image, because I particularly like the way you used the light, and I like this one in that it's kind of a little bit more, to me, looking at this one, it's a little bit more. It's opening some maybe questions in my mind, a little bit more mystery. It's not so representative of a singular place with, man-made structures in. This is a little bit more, mystery. It's making me ask questions as to the person who's created it. Why has he been drawn to this place that looks a little bit mysterious, a little bit magical, a place away from society perhaps?
Yeah, definitely. And the thing I like about fast flowing water like this is the noise. Again, it's like being at the seaside, listening to the waves crash.
Yeah. There's something about humans and water, isn't there? And I think it must be to do with the fact that we're made up of water, more 70%.
Yeah, possibly.
Right?
Yeah. There's definitely something about me and water.
Yeah, interesting. My girlfriend loves water, and she often goes to water when she's feeling very emotional, because the water helps to draw her tears.
Right. Okay.
And I don't know if that's something that you resonate with, and that it kind of soothes your emotions, perhaps.
No, I wouldn't say. I just find it calming.
Yeah.
I just find it calming. I don't experience any sadness around water. And maybe that's why I'm drawn to water.
Maybe. Interesting that another one of my favorites of yours is this one here with water in. One thing I also like about this, and I don't know if this is something that you've included intentionally, but it's definitely something I look for in my own work, is this sense of balance here in the kind of, when you wouldn't call it horizon, but this, can you see it on the screen there, what I'm drawing the mouse cursor? And I don't know if that's something that you've done intentionally, maybe it's subconsciously, that it's almost,
I'm pretty sure this was intentional, because I find the images leading you somewhere. Although there's a lot going on around where the water is white there,
Mm.
I feel it's leading you off into the distance.
Mm. Yeah, that's a concept I love to use in my work because it's kind of, you know, yin yang, if you like,
Yeah,
in the background as well. Creating that balance, which for me, nature is all about, you know, it's that perfect balance, the light and dark, the balance between two sides of us, for example.
yeah.
And this is why I wanted to kind of pick your brains a little bit about maybe are there any further concepts behind the work. I love to get into that kind of you know, deeper, what is the why behind, and breaking down, you know, like a portfolio of work. Is there a consistent kind of style? Is there a consistent theme? I can see with yours in terms of style, there's certainly a stillness to your portfolio. There's certainly a style of time of day, for example. Minus, I think there's a couple that are maybe afternoon, but most of them are kind of blue hour, sunrise, sunset kind of images.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a style in that. Compositionally, I mean, I mean, this one kind of links with the use of kind of, I guess, the kind of visual flow here in this image as well. And this one, there's kind of that maybe more traditional landscape photography, kind of shoreline leading into the distance as well. So I wonder if you know, if you think into the future whether there might be any further evolution of maybe styles, of concepts, of themes, of ideas, if it's something that you've thought about, if it's something that you'd like to think about in terms of giving Paul a more perhaps conceptual, artistic voice.
So what are you saying? Are you saying am I going to sort of broaden my horizons and go off in a different genre?
Maybe not a different genre, but in terms of looking at this portfolio of images, the concept, the theme that I get is perhaps a sense of calmness, like you've mentioned a few times. And then also in terms of technical style, there's a lot of this kind of flow going on. So I'm wondering if there are any thoughts in your mind as to where you might like to get to with your photography. You know, I'm trying to look as, say, if you were to put together a portfolio of you know, of themed photographs, what might that look like moving forwards in terms of an evolution or a growth, kind of place of growth?
I can't honestly say I've thought about it. As far as a portfolio is concerned, yes, I have thought about, you know, getting together a portfolio, but I've got to be honest with you, I don't even know where to start.
Okay. Can I offer a little bit of thought around that?
Yeah, please do.
For me, because I made a few notes. Let me just see. So, yeah, I mean, one thing I noted was, what are you trying to communicate beyond place? So perhaps that could be something that, I mean, of course, you can't answer that right now. That might require some further thought and reflection. So we've touched upon perhaps the peace and the calmness. So there's a start. So what might then evolve from that in terms of, and what I'm interested in is perhaps, and this is personal to me, like emotions, because to me photography is art, and it sounds like you're interested in photography as art as well.
Yeah.
And to me that includes a sense of emotion and you know, and theme and concept. So if, I mean, I'll draw on my own body of work now. A lot of my work has evolved into you know, selecting small parts of a landscape with themes of kind of interconnectedness, stillness, because I'm trying to convey this idea of me finding my own place within the world, following some of my own earliest experiences. So I can piece together probably 12 or 15 images from my portfolio of maybe 60 now that represent those kinds of themes. You know, there are some keywords that I'm thinking about that I feel represent me best, firstly as a human, which I'm then translating into my photography work, because my photography work is representative of me as a person. So in terms of moving forward, I'm wondering, and if you want to think about, you know, portfolios, from my perspective, a portfolio needs a theme, it needs a concept, and it needs a voice behind it in terms of some keywords that you believe best represent a certain body of work, for example.
Yeah, okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Has it opened up any questions in your mind?
Not really. I don't know, I'm just find it hard to communicate how I don't understand the portfolio thing. Yeah, I can get together some pictures that mean something to me, but are they going to mean something to somebody else? You know, it's very personal, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, that's then about perhaps finding the people that your work resonates with.
Yeah.
Hence the exhibitions, you know, and meeting those people then that perhaps feel a sense of familiarity with photographs, and perhaps, you know, experience those not same feelings, but certainly similar feelings, which then kind of, and from my experience having conversations with people at exhibitions, they then kind of it kind of opens my mind to what the wider theme of my work might be outside of myself. So as a you know, what might it mean to the world?
Yeah, it is about finding the right audience to share your portfolio with. I understand that, but it's how do you find that audience? Yeah, you say exhibitions, but you know, I think I've spoken about this sort of imposter syndrome. You know, is my work good enough to put in an exhibition? Am I going to get laughed at? You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from completely. So just thinking on that, from where I'm coming from in terms of overcoming my own fears and barriers to that, it actually comes from a place of I mean, I talked a lot about reflection, we have, but actually this journal, this has been the key component in terms of refining portfolio, in terms of finding my voice, in terms of what I'm trying to communicate. And I think having been through that process and determining what it is that I'm trying to say through articles, through essays, which you can find online, those have given this, you know, portfolio legs and further power, and that's actually how I believe have come across the kind of people that resonate and further guide me to where it is that I'm going. Does that shine some lights? Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, it does. Yeah, and I've got to be a little bit more brave and perhaps put myself out there a little bit more.
And that's determined by where you want to go and where you wish to go. You know, maybe if, you know, I'm hoping that this is kind of allowing you to find some answers to your own question.
Yeah, no, it definitely does.
Yeah. So would you say it's fear that is holding you back mainly, Paul?
Yes, 100%. I'm not the most confident of people. But I'm confident in as much as I can go and talk to somebody. You know, if I'll happily sit on the beach, someone will walk past and I'll have a conversation with them. You know, I'm fairly confident that way. But it's having confidence in my ability that I find a little bit more difficult. Yeah, I get comments quite often, mainly from family, that, oh, that's brilliant, that's a great picture, you know, and I get comments on Instagram, great picture, you know, but do I allow myself to believe that it's a great picture? Possibly not. And that's something I've got to get over.
Do you know what, Paul? To me, do you know what makes a great picture? Beyond its immediacy is actually the story behind it. And I can sense with you, there's a person with a deep story, which behind some of these photographs, if you can find a way to communicate that, that adds an element of depth and meaning that can't really be replicated. You can see, you know, so many photographs online that, like, yeah, I mean, they look brilliant. They look technically, they look fantastic. The light's brilliant, but like something in me doesn't want to dig further. But I can sense with you, there's a real depth and a story which can add a lot to a portfolio of work.
Yeah, I think if you look at a lot of my images, and there are some exceptions in what you've, the group that you've got, but they're at either end of the day, and that's not the photographer's belief that, you know, you can't get a good picture during the day in harsh light. I think you can, but I choose to go opposite ends of the day because of the solitude. I like being on my own or on my own with my wife, just wander around, etc.
That's a really, for me, that's a huge word, solitude, and that links to a whole host of emotions. That word is, I think, based upon the brief conversation we've had today, but also the conversation that we had at my exhibition. I feel like that's a word that could help to guide you and navigate you as you progress, and also perhaps then think about how you could translate further those feelings into images. I think solitude is key there. That evokes an awful lot inside of me.
Yeah.
So how can you then, beyond place, beyond time, how can solitude be a theme perhaps moving forwards in your images? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's something I've got to give some thought, and yeah, definitely. I don't know the answer yet.
Yeah, of course.
But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. I'm not expecting answers right now. This is a whole conversation that's based upon perhaps opening some avenues inside of the mind that can, you know, reflect. Because for me, a lot of photography is about the reflection process that goes alongside the images that deepen and add that sense of, you know, personalization to a portfolio. And there are themes within this portfolio that are very, you know, what's the word? Like you know, like glue. Like I've mentioned, the feelings, perhaps the stillness, the
Calming,
the solitude, the calming, and those are all things that I feel like moving forwards can give you a sense of identity, and they are in these images. These feelings of calm and peace, and a sense of almost safety and serenity. Yeah.
This place here, the Fennell Forest. You like your forest photography, your woodland photography. This is incredible. This place, it is forever misty in the mountains in Madeira, but again, I don't think that is a brilliant picture. I put it in there because there was nobody about, you know, and it's unusual. Fennell Forest is normally full of photographers. I probably see two others whilst we were here. But yeah, another amazing place.
Can I be honest about this one? I thought it was a little bit about it was a little bit of a misfit in the portfolio, actually. And you mentioned that you put it in there for a reason of solitude, but based upon the conversation, based upon the portfolio, it seems like those water scenes are the ones that best, for me, describe you as a person and as an artist.
I'd agree with that. I wanted to include some other pictures rather than it just be one theme.
And that's fine. That is one thing that I put in here was there was a bit of a varied portfolio. So my question was perhaps needing to refine in terms of where you're wanting to go.
Yeah. I get that. Sometimes it's a case of not here, because, you know, we actually flew to Madeira to take those pictures. But sometimes I think, you know, if you look at my Instagram profile, there will be mainly water photographs, you know, rivers, lakes, the sea. But there are other pictures in there, and that's normally because I feel that if I haven't taken a picture in a week, I need to get out.
Yeah.
And it's not practical to drive off to Southwell for 2 hours, so I'll go out locally there's no sea around me, and take pictures, you know, that are not seascapes.
Yeah. Which, hey, I think is hugely important as a you know, catalyst for development as well. It's not to stay too limited and rigid, but to experiment and explore. Because, hey, you even mentioned here that you were capturing an emotion beyond place here, so that's a key for learning as well. That points to the deeper side to what you're trying to communicate as well. So yeah, I mean, while it's important to have a portfolio, I believe, that represents who we are as people, there's a huge place for experimentation, for curiosity, for wonder, and yeah, just playing again with photography. So yeah, keep going with that.
Yeah, and it also it enables me to practice, you know, practice with my composition and lighting, etc., etc.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And this one was a challenge, believe me.
I bet it was, yeah. Can I point something out just as a woodland photographer?
Yeah, go.
A little bit of frustration for me here looking at this, where the top of the tree hasn't been given enough space to breathe. You may have already picked up on that as well. But that's you know, that's just how I perceive the image.
Yeah, something I discovered about this image is if the bushes are behind the tree, if I wandered, it actually did get a lot thicker than this, the fog. And if I'd wandered too close to the bushes, the other side was about 1,000-foot drop.
Wow.
And the guide didn't tell us that.
Right. Well, so that's on a cliffside.
Yeah, it's right up in the mountains.
Right.
Right up in the mountains.
Oh wow. Yeah. Interesting. Hey Paul, I've just clocked the time, and I know you said that you've got until about 2:30. So I think we're gonna call it a day on the call there. But just quickly before we do, I'm just wondering if there's any reflections based upon what we've spoken about. Of course, you're going to need time to think and process, but is there anything immediately that came to mind that stood out to you?
No, I don't think so. It's been an interesting conversation, and it will make me think perhaps a little bit deeper around why I'm taking that photograph, and what that photograph means to me. Certainly, and I've got some food for thought on a portfolio as well.
Awesome. Great. Well, I'm going to stop sharing there, and yeah.
Okay.
Hit end on the. Oh well, I'm not going to end the call, but we'll draw an end to the review session. So thank you.
No, thank you very much.